I'm good, thank you.
Do you have a good connection? Can you hear okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Kathleen is an Irish ancestry, and she's running for state senate and grew up in a very Irish family. Tell us about that, Kathleen.
Well, I was brought up in Stoughton, and my family lived all on the same street. We were all Irish. My maiden name is Crogan, Crogan, and we actually have Irish on both sides of the family. And my mom's maiden name was Holohan, Holahan, and my maternal grandfather came over from Ireland when he was 21. So our whole family was Irish. So that's all I knew really. Until we moved to Norton when I was in the third grade. And of course, I started meeting all different, ethnicities. And but of course, we kept on going back to Stoughton because that's where my grandparents were, my cousins were. So I still remain very connected to Stoughton.
Right.
So
That's right. Stoughton myself.
yeah. So I am second generation Irish on my mom's side. My grandfather, John Joseph, came over via Ellis Island. And, he was alone. He was 21. I do apparently have an aunt named Kathleen over there still, but I've not met her, and we're still doing the research actually. It's kind of difficult. And so he did serve in the military. He was a very, very quiet man, very kind, spoke with the brogue. He was very quiet, kind, generous. He did serve in the U.S. military. And we do have my son has his naturalization papers. He, looked that up. But as I said, we, continue to travel back to Stoughton even when we lived in Norton, and my godmother lived right next door, and my grandmother, who was known as Skip, Mary Crogan, she was known as Skip, she lived across the lake on Harris's Pond, and that was very nice. And my cousins and my aunt and uncles, they lived up the street. They were all the Crogan clan. And then, of course, like I said, my mother's side of the family is a little bit more difficult to research. So, I'm third generation Irish on my dad's side, Crogan, which I kept that name as my middle name. And so my Emma, who was my great grandmother, came over. I think she emigrated to the U.S. through Canada, through the, and then she went to Charlestown to live, and then Dorchester to live, and then ended up in Stoughton. So that's where that story happened. Yeah. So we just thought everybody was Irish. Our whole family was Irish when we lived in Stoughton. So what do you know when you're a kid?
No, that's right.
So.
You've been very, very busy with all kinds of activities, and what led up to you running for state senator. You've got a very, very interesting story. I'm amazed at it all, and I'm amazed at all the things you've gone to. You're there and everywhere, and just being a part of everything and everybody, making so many contacts. Tell us a little bit of the history there.
So I am running for state senate in the Norfolk, Plymouth, Bristol County. And, I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 3 grown children. I'm, a nurse, and I'm a former owner and operator of a small business for 20 years. So why did I decide to run? I decided to run because my daughter, when she was 16, was in a serious car accident, so it left her with a lot of disabilities. She lives in a group home. She speaks with the use of an assistive device with voice output, and she is, non-ambulatory. She uses a wheelchair for mobility. So she's got some significant needs. So during the pandemic, I went all throughout the state of Massachusetts when everything got closed down and tried to get her services, and I just couldn't. A lot of people tried to help, but they couldn't. So I went to the incumbent's office, Walter Timilty, for help, and his office said, we're not going to do the heavy lift. And I was really blown away by that response, and I decided to throw my hat in the ring and run. So it is, it is a story that, when I started talking about it, it took me a while to be comfortable because it has really impacted our family quite a bit.
Right.
And but I care very much about people with disabilities. 1 in 4 individuals have some kind of disability. And, we need to really, I want to work on being able to provide services for them in a humane way. Their issues are, transportation access, discrimination in the workplace, discrimination in housing. Those are certainly issues that if you Google disabilities, that you're going to read a lot about that, and that needs a lot of work. But the fundamentals of what a person with disabilities lives with, is human rights. The basic human rights, like the right to choose, the right to get out into the community, the right to choose your meals, really fundamental things that you and I take for granted every day. So it's really dignity, issues surrounding dignity. And right now, they're really not kind of like enforceable, for lack of a better word. And I'd like to get the upper echelons of, agencies and state governments to address that, so it's less of a softball topic,
Oh, absolutely.
So, but I care about the economy, I care about inflation. What can we do? Maybe we can get, nurses and teachers of, women have left whole professions because so much was heaped on them during the pandemic. So, a lot of women are staying home right now with no goal to go back to work. So, I'd like to offer some incentives for them to get back to work, and that would really boost our economy. And universal pre-K, I would advocate for that. That would boost jobs in and of itself tremendously. And paid family and medical leave, just to get some more energy back into the economy. And of course, I care very much about health care. I want to advocate for Medicare for all. In the state of Massachusetts, we're pretty good, Jim. Under, I think it's individuals who are not covered by insurance is 2.5%. So that number is pretty good, but it's still, we still need to address that. And also, even though people are covered, there's lots of expenses related to health care, even when you do have insurance. So, and, the recent Inflation Reduction bill that was put through, the $2,000 cap on prescription meds for example, for the elderly, if you're on a fixed income, Jim, that is really high for, yeah. And so also these, some of these fixes, if you will not go in immediately. It will take a couple of years for it to come to fruition. So, the elderly are really struggling. A lot of people are really struggling. High real estate taxes. I would really love to advocate for, minorities that are seeking to make their business grow. Let's say they have under 6 employees. It's very difficult for them to get loans to help their business grow, so I think it would be great if we could work on reworking the formula as it relates to helping small business prosper.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and and of course, gun violence and keeping kids safe in school, that is, it's been so tragic, and just to talk a bit about what families and children have been through. It's been very traumatic. Keeping them safe. They have to they go through their drills in school to keep safe. Each teacher has a drill for their pupils to do in school just in case something happens. It's such a different world we live in now.
For sure.
And then of course during the pandemic when things were closed down and parents were working from home and kids were working, taking the classes on their laptops, and the parents were helping their children. It was, really difficult for people and for the children and the parents. And I think for several years going forward, we're going to have to throw some money at different issues like, education, mental health, because kids were really impacted, psychologically, socially. They couldn't be with their peers. And, we're looking at graduation rates going forward, trying to make sure that kids excel. And I think really post-pandemic, I would, kind of work on a post-COVID, post-pandemic renaissance, if you will. I think there's just so much that we can do and so much that we can be positive about. COVID shined a light on so many things that weren't working well before, like the mental health crisis, the ability to get a psychiatric bed for, let's say, a youth was having a mental health crisis, and let's say the parent was looking for a psychiatric bed. It was not easy to find, at all. So.
That's really been what I like, and you continue to do it, Kathleen, and it's amazing all the work you've been doing, touching base with all kinds of people and getting your name out there and your meeting with people. It's just amazing. And I just thought we could maybe come live into the station today, and maybe sometime we can do this again.
Yeah, it would be fun to do that in the future. Yeah, I just kind of look forward to wearing those headphones.
Absolutely. You'll be joining it later in Bishop Tony Branch on Stand Up Strong later on this afternoon.
Yes, that would be great. Yep, I'm looking forward to that. Stand Up Strong. Yep.
Kathleen, it's been a pleasure having you on. I wish we could have, like I said, done it live.
Yeah.
But,
Be well, Jim. Be well, and take care. Yes. Yes, correct.
Kathleen Crogan-Camara, I'm talking to. Thanks so much, Kathleen. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully I will run into you at one of the events that you're at sooner or later before the election. But good luck.
Yes, please visit www.kathleenkamara.com, and thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.